Hey guys, Wade Willis here doing my playthrough of Umineko. This is chapter 2. I'm on part 8 now. Last one, we started to see the wheels kind of turning. Beatrice thought that she could just make Shannon kind of her puppet and do her bidding and kind of beg. And Shannon has kind of realized some of the chinks in Beatrice's armor and is actually just doing things to upset Beatrice that I would have never expected. And Shannon's just accepted that she's probably going to be sacrificed in the second sacrifice where Beatrice goes after the people who love each other. But yeah, Shannon was already one of my favorite characters. The way she's reacting with Beatrice after Beatrice pulling this, really screwing her over, is kind of amazing. They keep talking about the Golden Land. I have no idea what the hell this is, but it's not Purgatory because they also reference Purgatory as something separate, I think. So, I don't know, but it seems like what's going to happen is that all these people who are servants are going to be freed by Beatrice, either by her killing them or them going to the Promised Land. It's kind of reminds me a bit of in Fate, how the people who win get to go to the Holy Grail and make a wish type of thing. Kind of giving me that kind of vibe, but again, I have no idea what the hell's going on, so I'm excited to get into this. And guys, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Those of you that are new, I'm doing these, I've posted at least 5 of these a week, it's looking like right now. So trying to get us up to speed with some of these other characters that are getting introduced in Higurashi. This was the most fabulous part of the family conference. Dinner. In the past, when Kinzo had been serious about the conference, he had taken everyone's yearly gathering for dinner very seriously, because anything embarrassing that occurred during the dinner would cause the deepest shame for him as the host. He had given Natsui stern orders to avoid embarrassment at all costs. Because of that, she and Kraus eventually hired Goda, who had confidence in his cooking abilities. Thanks to that, they became able to serve wonderful dinners they could be confident in. But by that time, Kinto had closed himself off in his study and never appeared for dinner. Maybe you can call that ironic. When the main dish for tonight, calf steak, was set out, Goda began to describe it proudly, further stimulating everyone's appetites.
こちら、ソースはボルドレーズとなっております。
I don't know about you guys, but I kind of hate when people do this at restaurants.
ベースの赤ワインはもちろん、ボルドー産の中でも素晴らしいものを使用しておりますが、その他にも当家オリジナルブレンドとしまして、世界各地数種類の名酒をブレンドしまして、より深い味わいとなりますよう整えてございます。このソースは本年限りのものでございます。どうかお楽しみいただければ幸いです。
素晴らしいじゃないか。しかし、ボルドレーズソースはフランス料理の王道ではないのかね。それに、フランス以外の酒を使うのは少し邪道ではないかという気もするね。
旦那様、本日は年に一度の親族会議でございます。普段は遠方にお住まいの皆様が、はるばるお越しになり、一堂に集われた夜の晩餐には、世界各地より普段は出会うことのない名酒を取り寄せブレンドしたソースが何よりもふさわしいかと存じ、特別にご用意させていただいたのでございます。
素晴らしい。本当に素晴らしい料理人や、あんたは。能書きが加わると料理も薬も効果は2倍になるっちゅうわけやな。元の料理のうまさも2倍、さらに能書きで2倍。味の売買ゲームや。
Yeah, if it's sold in the right way, like with food, you can kind of taste the stuff. I don't like when people do it that much, but then if someone's just oh, that place is the best place to eat ever, it kind of lowers your you have really high expectations and then you're usually let down. But if you go through this thing about how the thing was prepared and just this whole story, it does make a difference, even though it annoys me.
いやね、兄さん。 その質問、読まれてたんじゃないの？
Yes.
違いねえな。まんまと美味しいところをゴーダさんに持ってかれちまったぜ。
そうかね。今日の料理をフランス風だと気づいていない者もいるんじゃないかと思ってね。エヴァは先ほどバターを使わないのが美徳と言ったが、それはスペイン風だ。確かに国境を接してはいるがね。
そういう意味で言ったんじゃないわよ。話の一部分だけ抜き出して勝手に加工しないでくれるかしら。
とっても美味しいソースね。ゴーダさんは本当に素晴らしいわ。
お褒めに預かり、大変光栄です。これもすべて、奥様の日頃のご指導のおかげでございます。
いえ、すべてゴーダのアイディアです。私はレシピを聞き、承認しただけです。
It looked like the siblings got into a loud argument about the sauce, but for the most part, dinner proceeded peacefully. However, a certain question they desperately wanted to ask burned inside each one of them. It was about the visitor, the 19th person, the Golden Witch. In actuality, Ava and Rudolph and the rest were very much on guard during this meal. If the mysterious guest was ever going to be introduced, this dinner table would be the appropriate place to do it. However, no place was set for the dinner for the witch. The family conference would begin in earnest after the meal, and previous experiences told them that this might last deep into the night. However, they couldn't imagine why such a person should be kept hidden until late, if they were going to be introduced in the end anyway. So Ava and Rudolph and the rest were starting to feel a certain suspicion. Perhaps this guest was unknown even to Kraus. If this wasn't an assassin called by Kraus to give him an advantage in the inheritance problem, then maybe they should speak frankly to Kraus beforehand, creating a common front to resist anything disadvantageous to the four siblings. If she was Kinzo's assassin, whose purpose was to keep the inheritance from being handed over to the four siblings, the enmity between Kraus and the other siblings could only become a weak point that benefited the enemy.
それでは、ごゆっくりお楽しみください。
When he finished explaining the reasoning behind the table setting and the cooking, Goto tried to leave the room, but Kyrie called him to stop it with a small voice.
はい、キリエ様。何か。
She's going to ask
ごめんなさい。
about Beatrice, huh?
今日はお客様がいらっしゃってると思ったんだけど、晩餐にはお見えにならないのかしら。
She had planned on saying it nonchalantly, but unfortunately it reached the ears of Natsui, who was sitting in the next seat over. It seemed that Natsui had heard it as, even though there are guests here, why hasn't the host come to dinner? In other words, Kyrie had asked whether Kinzo was going to join them for dinner.
当主様は体調が優れられませんので、お部屋で食事をとると仰せです。主人が初めにそう説明いたしましたが、何か。
Goto's going to spill the beans on Beatrice, right?
ごめんなさい。そうじゃないの。
Natsui's reaction instantly told Kyrie that this unknown visitor was also unknown to Kraus and his wife, which meant, on the chessboard inside Kyrie's mind, she could hear the clattering of pieces as they rearranged themselves.
客
Battler, who had been sitting next to Natsui, seemed to have heard Kyrie's words without misunderstanding them. Thinking it was strange that someone else would be invited to today's family conference, he spoke up incredulously. And thanks to that, the uncomfortable feeling building in the siblings' chest suddenly exploded. Everyone looked at Goto at the same time. Judging by their reactions, it was clear that no one here had invited that mystery woman. For an instant, Goto was startled to find everyone's gazes gathered on him, but because of his naturally vain personality, this actually gave him a feeling of superiority. Therefore, he answered in an extremely calm and graceful manner. Oh yeah, he loves this.
はい。貴賓室で、お一人で食事を取られたいとのことで、そちらへお運びしております。
That extremely graceful and reasonable response of Goto's made it obvious that everyone that a 19th person, a visitor, existed.
貴賓室？客？ 誰の話ですか？
Natsui's words echo the question that everyone who didn't know about the appearance of the Golden Witch was thinking. For a while, Goto was disoriented, caught completely off guard by this sudden interrogation. This was a guest who had been treated with such deep respect. He hadn't imagined that Krauss and his wife might not even know about her.
その、ベアトリーチェ様でございます。
Maria had been telling the other cousins over and over again that she had met Beatrice that day. The cousins had answered flippantly, but they had not believed. So their eyes grew wide.
すまねえ。俺はてっきりマリアの冗談だと思ってたぜ。本当にいたんだな。
ベアトリーチェって、あの黄金のベアトリーチェなのかよ。マリアはいるってずっと言ってる。誰も信じてない。
ごめんね、マリアちゃん。そういうつもりじゃないんだよ。
After learning that everyone else had doubted Beatrice's existence, Maria, who had been in a good mood all day, completely lost her temper. George, who sat in the next seat over, tried to frantically calm Maria.
ゴーダ、それもディナーの何かの余興なのかね？なかなかの味な演出だ。
兄貴、三文芝居はやめようぜ。兄貴が呼んだんだろ。
呼ぶ？誰よ？どこから？
兄さん、はっきりさせましょう。あれは誰？まさか、本当に肖像画のベアトリーチェだと言うんじゃないでしょうね。
私にはお前たちが何を言っているのかさっぱりだ。ゴーダ、これは本当に冗談ではないのだな。
私はその、
I love seeing
源
this
氏さ
guy
んか
feel
らそのように
uncomfortable.
指示を受けただけでして、その、
源氏を呼びなさい。今すぐ。
When Natsui yelled, Goto sped out into the hallway. The sound of the door being thrown open was a spark that suddenly set the dinner table ablaze.
じゃあ兄貴も知らないってんだな。呼んだのは誰だ？親父ってことか？
私には何のことかわからんね。お前たちは私が裏で糸を引いていると信じているようだが、それは大きな誤解だ。
クラス兄さん、落ち着いて。わしらはもう腹の探り合いをすべき段階にないで。もし兄さんも知らない怪人物だっちゅうんなら、これはとんでもない話になるんやで。
Hideyoshi is definitely correct on that.
秀吉さん、言葉を少し慎みませんか？主人は親族会議に不要な人間を招いたりはしません。
まったくだ。お前たちは何を言っているのか。
Oh, maybe I read what Hideyoshi said wrong.
肖像画の魔女が額縁を抜け出して現れたとでも言うのかね。実際にその魔女様に会ったという人間がいるわけでもなかろうが。
私、あったわ。
This throws a wrench into it. Ava and Rudolph nodded at Rosa's proclamation.
マリアもあった。クラウスおじさん、信じて。
He ain't gonna believe you, Maria.
信じて。
The brief tension was broken and Maria also started to make a ruckus. By now, the room was thoroughly wrapped in chaos.
何が何だかさっぱりだぜ。つまりなんだ？じい様に黄金を授けた魔女様が今年の親族会議にはスペシャルゲストとして登場ってわけかよ。
しかし、本当に？ローザおばさんの見間違いってことじゃねえの？
マリアもあった。
Alright, that crying's a bit much for me right now.
ローザおばさん、間違いなくなんですか？
ええ、私とマリアは会って話もしてる。私は会ったの。あれは間違いなく魔女だった。信じて。私の見間違いとか錯覚とかそんなのじゃ断じてない。あれは何だったの？
Time for you to pull out the letter, homie. In an instant before the typhoon arrived, Rosa definitely met a witch in the rose garden. But the scene had been so hard to accept as the truth that the more she spoke of it like this, the less she understood why she had been encountered. Ironically, since she was losing her composure, the more frantically she tried to cling her claim, the more confused and hazy the thing she was describing became. Because of that, it only took a single calmly spoken sentence to confirm the nature of what she had been describing beyond doubt.
私もあったわ。挨拶とはとても言えないけれど、一応言葉も交わしてる。ローザさんの見間違いとかじゃ断じてないわ。
キリエさん、それマジかよ。
ええ。でも彼女は私に名乗らなかった。だから彼女がベアトリーチェであると断定はできない。でも、主観的で恐縮なんだけど、私は玄関ホールで彼女に会ったから、肖像画と顔を見比べることができた。私は第一印象で、彼女こそがこの肖像画の主に違いないって思ったわ。あくまでも主観よ。
そんなことはありえません。第一、その女はどこからやってきたというのですか？今日の船は皆さんの送迎のための便が往復しただけです。その船に乗っていたのですか？
それを言われると弱いな。確かに、そんなご婦人と一緒に下船した記憶はない。
あら、そう？私たちの乗ってきた船以外に船はないってどうして証明できるの？できないわ。来なかったは証明できない。
Or she's been here the whole time.
道理だな。来たは証明できる。来たのを見た奴が見たと言えばいい。しかし、来ないは証明できないぜ。全員が来ない、見てないと言ったところで、全員が見てないところでこっそり来たことを否定はできない。つまり、悪魔の証明ってやつだ。
It'd be simple to prove that the devil exists. All you have to do is meet a devil. But it's impossible to prove that devils don't exist. Just by saying that one has ever met a devil, you can't deny the possibility that they're hiding away somewhere humans can't go. You can't deny the existence of aliens for exactly the same reason. Until humanity searches the whole of space and can show perfectly that aliens don't exist, you can't be sure that they don't exist. And it's definitely impossible for us to ever check all the entirety of space for the existence of aliens. How does this fool not think that witches exist then? Therefore, there may be a number of ways to prove that aliens do exist, and will be impossible to show that proof that denies their existence.
となれば、僕たちが乗ってきた船以外の船で来たかどうかなんて、議論しても無駄な問題ということになるね。僕たちと一緒の船にはいなかった。それだけが事実で、それ以外の方法で、とにかくこの島に訪れたことになる。
そうね。どうやって来たかなんて、議論の必要はないかもしれない。肝心なのは、現にこの屋敷に今いて、私たちと晩餐を共にする気がないという事実よ。
整理しよう。今この島には、後ろ宮家18人以外に、もう一人客がいる。そしてそいつは、兄貴も夏日姉さんも知らない客だってんだな。
知りません。何の話だかもわかりません。
お前は少し黙っていなさい。
He's such a dick.
頭痛に触る。妻の言う通りだ。私にはお前たちが何の話をしているのかさっきから
Tells her to
さ
shut
っ
up,
ぱ
and
り
then
だ。
he's like, yeah, what she said.
じゃあ、答えは一つしかないわ。お父様が呼んだのよ。今日の親族会議のために。
I mean, technically he did.
親族会議にだから何のために
そんなの知らないわよ。兄さんが知ってたら、それを問い詰めようって思ってたのよ。
Damn, Ava.
ええわ、予算か。クラース兄さんは知らんと言うとる。つまり、話はこうや。お父さんが肖像画の魔女にそっくりの客人をこっそり招いた。それに、ローザさんが出会い、マリアちゃんが出会い、そしてキリエさんもあった。今はそこまでや。 わしらに言いたいことがあるんなら、とっとと姿を現せばええ。挨拶もなしに引きこもってるっちゅうんはどないなわけなんや。ってことなんや。
親族会議なんか花から関心のない親父が、新しい愛人をこっそり呼びつけたってわけか？理想の魔女様のおべべを着せてよ。そう決着する
I
に
would
は
probably think that
今
too.
日という日は意味を持ちすぎてるぜ。
理由は一つしかない。親族会議に加わるためよ。お父様の遺産について何かの権利を主張する気でいるのよ。
バカバカしい。当主様に愛人などと汚らわしいものなどおりません。
お前は黙っていろと言っている。私はこの屋敷でずっと親父殿と過ごしているが、そんな話は聞いたこともない。最大限理解を示したとして、何十年も昔の愛人との間に隠し子がいたとして、それを親父殿が探し出し、今日という日に呼びつけたと、こう言いたいのかね？
あなた、お父様にそんなものがいるわけがありません。
I don't think it's that
尊い
absurd.
後宮の血が愛人ごときに。先ほどから数人が見た見たと自称しているに過ぎません。幻想妄想白昼夢に決まっています。
She's the most Ushiromiya family person and she's not, has like no
あ
respect.
るいはこれも夫を陥れるための皆さんの何らかの芝居なのですか？
何の芝居だってのよ。芝居だって言うならそっちでしょうが。
Catfight.
よせよ姉貴。ちょいと暴力的な言い方だが、夏日さんの言う通りではある。キリエは姿を見たが、俺は見てない。姉貴もだ。だがローザは見た。しかしってことは、いるってことになる。いるを証明している連中が存在する以上、いるで直ちに決着だ。悪魔の証明の逆パターンってわけだな。それに、俺も会いたいんだよ。そして、一体当家に何の御用かと直接問いただしたい。
That's not gonna go well for you guys.
それについては私も同感だ。六軒島へ何の御用かぜひお尋ねしたいものだ。
白々しいこと言わないで。狙いは一つよ。お父様の遺産を狙ってるのよ。
Technically it's hers.
相続問題に明るい弁護士に今後の作戦を練らせるべきよ。お母様と同格の権利を愛人が主張した場合、私たちの取り分はかっきり半分さらわれることになる。
Vultures.
ちょっとみんな待って。源氏さんがもうじき来るわ。彼は何でも知ってる。きっと私たちの疑問に答えてくれるわ。それまでそういう話はなしに
What
しま
about
しょ
the
う。
letter, girl?
さあ子供たち、悪いけれど大人はちょっと込み入った話をしないといけないの。ゲストハウスへ戻っていなさい。
Rosa yelled at the children, slightly overcome with emotion. The children didn't understand why they were being suddenly yelled at this time, but Ava and the rest realized it's too late. They were talking so bluntly about the filthy topic of inheritance right in front of the children. Of course they didn't want their children to remain. So they all immediately agreed with Rosa's plan.
そうやな。ローザさんの言う通りや。ジョージ、いとこみんなでゲストハウスに戻ってるんや。いとこ同士仲良く遊ぶんやで。
ジョージ、言われた通りになさい。いとこみんなを連れて今すぐ出ていくのよ。
You literally don't have to ask George twice.
ちょっ
Oh,
と
maybe
待
I
ってよ
guess you
母さん。僕たちはまだ食事も終えていない。
デザートもまだ来てない。
デザートはゴーダさんにゲストハウスに運ばせます。だから出て行きなさい。
ジェシカ、ここから先は大人の話し合いです。行きなさい。
わかったよ。
She's like the next in line,
計画
too.
だってのよ。
ってことは、俺だけ例外ってことはないよな。
理解してくれてありがとう、バトラ君。
Battler like doesn't
で
even
もあな
care.
たラッキーよ。
どうして？
私も出ていけるなら出ていきたいの。
違いねえぜ。大人は大人で遺産をめぐって楽しい一家団らんをお楽しみくださいってんだ。
私も席を外しましょう。
This dude's been here the whole time, hasn't
どう
said
や
a
ら
word.
今夜は私の出番はなさそうだ。
Nansho quietly rose to his feet. From his seat in the farthest corner, he had been calmly watching the whole discussion without butting in. Surely that reaction of his was very adult, just what you expect from a calm old gentleman. When Nacho rose from his seat and ended up encouraging the others who were supposed to leave, the children noisily rose from their seats, and as they hurried into the hallway, the servants returned.
遅くなって申し訳ご、源氏をお呼びいたしました。
お屋敷の中の戸締まりの確認に行っておりましたもので、申し訳ございません。
さあ、子供たちはゲストハウスへ。合田さん、申し訳ないのだけれど、子供たちの分のデザートをゲストハウスへ運んでくれるかしら。
は、よろしいのですか。
It seemed Goda wasn't amused to see the dinner he worked so hard on interrupted like this. He sent Natsui a look, though asking her if that was really okay.
ローザさんの言う通りにするように。それから、私たちにデザートの配膳は不要です。呼び出しがあるまで食堂には近づかないように。これは他の使用人にも伝えること。いいですね。
はい。
Perfect for all you guys to get killed, I'll tell you that much.
さあさあ皆さん、参りましょうかな。マリアさんもこれ以上お母さんを困らせてはいけません。
Homegirl's about to get smacked. 10 to 1 odds.
マリアちゃん、僕たちにゲストハウスでベアトリーチェの話を聞かせてくれないかい？ぜひ魔女の話を聞きたいんだ。ね。
ジョージ兄さんは本当にうめえぜ。感動するぜ。
本当に子持ちじゃねえのかよ。手慣れすぎだぜ。
Battler. George's words had completely restored Maria's good mood, and now she took the initiative telling the others to head to the guest house. It looked like Goda didn't like being kicked out himself, but he couldn't disobey Natsui, so he left the room with Battler and the rest closing the door.
ご用は何でしょうか、皆様。
あるわ。たっぷりと。それもみんな。誰から質問するかくじ引きが欲しいくらいよ。
だが誰が一番のくじを引こうとも最初にする質問は同じだと思うね。
違いねえな。源氏さん、正直に答えてくれ。今貴賓室にいるベアトリーチェってのは何者なんだ。
Who is this person called Beatrice? It is Beatrice. Oh, dang. That's a big change in time. Hideyoshi's claim that advertising doubled the taste was apparently right. After being chased out to the guest house, the kids and Nancho had gathered in the cousin's room and were eating cake that Kumasawa had brought for dessert. It was both wonderful and high class, topped with lavish amounts of cream and decorated deliciously with fruits. But delicious as it was, it didn't quite taste as good for some reason.
ゴーダさんの脳書きがないと味ってずいぶん落ちるんだな。
脳書きを求めようにも熊沢のばあちゃんに聞いた日にゃこのケーキの原料もサバってことになっちまうぜ。
ほんと？サバからケーキってできる？
Oh, that would be...
ええ、このケーキもサバの絞り汁に小麦粉と卵を混ぜて焼き上げるとふっくら焼き上がるのでございますよ。
Oh.
それが本当ならすごいね。お父さんの店の新メニューにサバケーキとか登場するかもしれないよ。
サバって栄養満点でヘルシーっぽいイメージがあるしよ。女性とかお年寄りに人気が出たりしてな。俺は食わねえけどよ。
女はそんなゲテモノは食わねえぜ。
Oh, yes, they
年寄り
will.
も遠慮したいところですな。
ほほほほほ。美味しいんですけどね。
Kumasawa was really cheering up the mood with her classic mackerel jokes. But the sound of downpouring rain kept turning their attention towards the mystery guest. In the end, they showered Maria with questions again, when she was the only person there to have met Beatrice.
まさか、あの話が本当だったとはね。
その口ぶりだと、マリアが魔女に会ってたって話は、信じてなかったまでにも、初耳じゃねってことらしいな。
ああ。夢見がちなお年頃の、よくあるおとぎ話くらいに思ってたぜ。
いる！ベアトリーチェはいる！毎年親族会議に来るたびにマリアは会って一緒に遊んでた！
そうですね。ベアトリーチェ様は普段はお姿をお見せになりませんけど、心が綺麗で素直な方の前にはひょっこり姿を現していたずらをすることもあるそうですからね。
Beatrice referred to that character in the fairy tale about the Rokunjima witch. To keep Kinzo in a good mood, the family and servants acted as though they believed in the witch of his delusions. That's how Rokunjima's fairy tale, or maybe ghost story, had come into being. To the family members who knew that backstory, the fairy tale of the Golden Witch wasn't something to be taken too seriously. However, they were never able to say that out loud in front of Kinzo. Because of that, the legend of the witch carried a lot more weight than someone like young Maria, who didn't know the story of how it had come into being. That's why Maria believed the legend of the witch. She accepted it entirely. That was only natural for an imaginative girl who believed in witches. So people had avoided saying things that would betray her dream. On the contrary, they had worked together to say and do things that would help liven up her dreams without her knowing.
だから、マリアちゃんがベアトリーチェにもらったお菓子と言って僕らに見せびらかすことがあっても、多分誰かがそういうことにして、マリアちゃんの手提げの中にこっそり飴玉でも忍ばせたのだろうって思ってた。
私も昔に2度か3度そういうふりをしてこっそりお菓子を置いてあげたことがあります。おそらく熊沢さんにも、いや使用人の皆さんや後ろ宮家の皆さんも1度や2度はあるんじゃないでしょうか。
うん。無邪気な小さい子が喜ぶなら、口裏を合わせてお菓子を置いてくこともあるか。ってことは、ジョージの兄貴なんか、だいぶやってそうだな。
まあね。
It'd probably be boorish to admit to such a thing out loud. George admitted it while being extremely wary that Maria didn't find out.
つまり、サンタクロースみたいなもんか。子供の夢を守るために、両親がグルで嘘をついて、寝静まったこの枕元にプレゼントを置いていたと。
Wait, Santa Claus isn't real?
子供の夢って守ってあげたいし。私は当然、サンタなんていないってとっくに知ってるわけだけど、もし覚めなくてもいい夢だったなら、一生信じていたかったぜ。
世の中は世知辛いばかりだと知ってしまうからこそ、大人はせめて子供の綺麗な夢を守ってやる。
ベアトリーチェはいるの！
いますとも。ベアトリーチェ様はおりますよ。この前もですね、サバを干して紅茶の出汁に使おうとしておりましたら、そこへひょっこり。
まあ、つまり、こういう調子。 だったはずなんだけどね。
つまり、マリアを除けば、誰も信じてなかったはずの魔女ってわけだ。
少し言葉が足りないね。信じてなかったんじゃない。信じさせてあげようとしたんだ。
So this is about not betraying a child's innocence. But Santa doesn't exist in reality. If you don't want kids to be all disappointed when they learn the truth, you'd be better off not showing them that dream in the first place. Is the fact that I think like this proof that I'm still a long way from becoming a full adult? The true nature of the Rokenjima witch was finally starting to take shape in Battler's mind. However, their current situation overrode this understanding, and in fact, it completely overturned its very premise. Yeah, why they are talking about it in this way is like, doesn't make sense, because, okay, we know that 3 people have seen Beatrice, and now they're just trying to understand why, like, Maria believed she existed. Well, why does that even matter at this point? Like, how about you try to figure out what her plans are, as opposed to why Maria believed in a person that really exists? I don't...
という認識だったはずの魔女のベアトリーチェ様が実際に現れちまったと。そういうことか。しかもだ。おじさんたちの騒ぎを見る限り、どうも招かれた客でもないらしい。こりゃ面白そうな話だぜ。
ベアトリーチェという女性が実在しないという前提は実は存在しない。ルドルフおじさんも言っていた悪魔の証明そのものだよ。ベアトリーチェと名乗る女性の存在を僕たちは誰も知らなかった。でもだからといってそれがベアトリーチェが実在する可能性を否定できるわけじゃない。
南條先生はじいさまとの付き合いが長いですよね。
一時期親族会議でクラウスさんたちに随分と聞かれた話ですな。その昔金蔵さんにベアトリーチェという愛人がいて、その隠し子がいるの。
なるほどな。親父たちは遺産分配で頭がいっぱいだ。そこに愛人の娘なんてのが現れれば面倒なことになるのは火を見るより明らかってわけだ。
クラウスさんたちも最初は源氏さんに聞かれたのでしょう。しかし源氏さんは金蔵さんに忠誠を誓う側近で、多分私よりも金蔵さんが心を許す親友です。源氏さんは多分何も語らなかったのでしょう。それで次に古い友人である私の方に話を聞こうということになったのでしょうな。
で、結論として南條先生。
おりました。いえ、私は会ったことはありませんぞ。ですが、そういう女性と交際があったと金蔵さんから聞かされたことはありました。相当昔にお亡くなりになられたそうで。
死んだ。その間に子供がいたとか。
それはわかりません。ただ金蔵さんはベアトリーチェを蘇らせるために研究をしていると常々言っておりました。普通は愛人を失い忘れがたみがいたならばそちらにその分の愛情を注ぐものです。ですから金蔵さんとベアトリーチェの間に子供はいなかったろうと私たちは自然に考えました。
ってことは、それも悪魔の証明になっちまうな。
なるぜ。愛人との間に子供がいなかったことは証明不能。現にこうして現れた以上、いたってことになっちまうわけか。
Yeah, I guess if I was in their situation, I would probably think it's like a child of his mistress.
少し暴力的な理論だね。
I guess.
後宮家の遺産問題でトラブルが生じていることを聞きつけ、 何者かがおじい様の大昔の愛人関係を知り、それを装って遺産問題に食い込もうとしているとかの方が現実的だよ。
現実的ではある。しかし、
Yeah.
本当に彼女が隠し子で。しかもその上、じい様に顧みられなくて、孤独に生き、復讐に帰ってきたって設定も、否定はで。
復讐？なんだよそれ。
ああ、すまんすまん。男なんだよ。ついつい面白そうな方に脚色しちまうぜ。妙なドラマの見過ぎだな。
Normally that might have come off as a light joke, but the joke hadn't landed as an uninvited mystery guest calling herself Beatrice had marched into the day of the family conference where the bloody argument that the inheritance had become took center stage. There was no way Battler's joke would be welcomed with laughter. So it was a really big help when Nanjo laughed brightly to calm everyone down.
なるほどなるほど。それはなかなか面白そうですな。そんな筋書きの小説をぜひ読んでみたいものです。
まあ、現実にはそんなことはできねえと思う。何しろよ。今、この島には、ひふみ、18人もいるんだぜ。妙なことをすればすぐにでも取り押さえられちまう。それに、台風のおかげで島から逃げ出すこともできない。つまり、とんでもない事件を起こそうにも、どうにもならねえってことさ。
Really?
同感だね。退路の断たれた袋小路で、しかも十分怪しまれているような状況下で、そんな恐ろしい復讐劇なんか、とてもできるとは思わないね。
It will be a lot. That is true. It will be harder for her to pull this off, even though she's so powerful. Her making this entrance while Battler has to accept that she exists, I guess? Or he is kind of accepting that she exists.
でしょうな。ならば、姿など表さずに暗躍しての復讐の方が現実味があるというものです。
Yeah, half the people didn't think she was real the last
堂々と姿を現して仇討ち
time.
など、時代劇の中でしか考えられませんな。
わからねえぜ。復讐ってのは感情でやるもんだ。理屈じゃねえぜ。それこそ差し違えてでもなんて考えたら、別に警察も人数も退路がなくても何も怖く
Okay, I
ない
see
かも
where
しれ
she's
ねえ
going
ぜ。
with this.
大丈夫だよ、ジェシカちゃん。僕たちが想像するような物騒なことは何も起きないよ。
遺産をめぐっておじさんたちがバトルロイヤルってのが物騒なことじゃねえってんならな。
そうだよな。父さんもルドルフおじさんも体格いいし、エヴァおばさんなんか格闘技習ってるでしょ。
Oh, I didn't know she's trained in martial arts.
大
It's
丈
kind
夫
of
だよ
cool.
ね。
Jessica didn't say it out loud, but she vaguely noticed that her own father stood in opposition to all the other siblings on inheritance issues. They usually played nice in front of the children, but when that pretense was lifted away, like it had been at dinner, the result would be a tumultuous uproar. After realizing this, it was only natural for Jessica to be frightened at the thought that her parents might get caught up in some kind of trouble and become human sacrifices for something terrifying.
だよな。ジョージの兄貴の言う通りだぜ。何も起こらねえよ。魔女様の名前を語ろうとも、魔法も使えない人間の女が一人で何ができるってんだ。
Famous last words. I'd laugh if she just appeared in the... Oh. The sudden creepy laugh made all of them jump. I would literally shit my pants if I heard that laugh after lightning. And when they realized the strange laugh was coming from Maria, they were shocked again.
そうなんだ。それがバトラの認識なんだね。
何かだよ。気色悪い声で笑うんじゃねえぜ。
バトラはベアトリーチェの存在をとりあえずは認めてる。 19人目の客人程度には認めてる。でも、そこまでだね。19人目のベアトリーチェが魔女であることは認めてないね。
突然何を言い出すかと思えば。そりゃそうだろ。魔女なんているわけがね
え。That goes against the devil's thing.
それを語る人間の女しかありえねえだろうが。
あれ？おかしいよ、バトラー。それは悪魔の証明だよ。魔女なんているわけがねえ。でもそれは、バトラが魔女に会ったことがないというだけで、魔女の存在を否定することにはならないね。
そうだな。確かにそうだ。魔女がいねえを証明することはできない。しかし、証明はできなくても主張はできる。魔女はいねえという、俺の主張だ。
どうして魔女はいないなんて証明できないくせに主張できるの？
You just said you can't claim aliens don't exist.
そんなものはいねえからだよ。
それで QED？ 何の証拠も根拠もなく証明終了？無知が自分の浅が草を棚上げする時の典型例。暴力的思考停止だね。
Yeah, he can't be going into devil's proof over and over again, and then once there's one that he doesn't, you have to accept devil's proof for everything if you're going to use it, right?
となりゃ、答えは一つだぜ、マリア。魔女側の反証しかねえってことだろう。これまた悪魔の証明だ。連れてくりゃ話は早い。この場合は、ベアトリーチェと名乗るご婦人が、お星様がキラキラ飛び散るような華麗な魔法をステッキででも披露して、人間には不可能なことをやってみせればいい。ってことだろ。
He said that before.
ほら、お二人とも、落ち着いてくださいな。
Kumasama noticed that the atmosphere between them was getting worse and tried to calm them down. It seemed as though Battler quickly realized that he wasn't acting like an adult, but Maria's expression didn't loosen. She laughed creepily and kept staring at Battler.
マリアももうよせよ。機嫌直そうぜ。な。
それが望みなら、ベアトリーチェはきっと見せてくれるよ。人間には不可能なこと。そしたらバトラも信じるんだよね。ベアトリーチェのこと。
おう、そいつを拝ましてくれたら、信じてやろうじゃねえか。
魔女とバトラの議論のチェスだね。チェックメイトされたら、バトラは魔女を信じる。
おー、洒落た例えだぜ。魔女が魔法を見せる。俺のキングにチェックをかける。俺は人間でも、何らかの手段で再現可能だとイチャモンをつけて、キングを逃がす。それができなきゃチェックメイトってのは、確かにいい例えだ。
バトラ、チェスというのは、相手も自分も同じ動きの駒を持ってる。だから相手の手も読める。でもね、相手の駒がバトラの駒よりさらに不思議な動きができることを、魔女のはずないからと、ベアトリーチェの動かす駒の動きを自分とどうせ同じだと決めつけている。
This is a big problem for him.
でもね、悪いけど、バトラのチェスの相手は人間じゃない。魔女なの。人間にはさせない駒の動きができる。バトラは今、そこの認識を間違えているの。バトラは、キリエおばさんのチェス盤思考って好きでしょ？
ああ。相手の立場に立っての思考術ってやつを、気に入ってるぜ。
I'm fairly certain he hasn't even mentioned that in front of Maria in this loop, so...
だからダメなの。相手は魔女なのに、バトラはそれを認めない。 だから魔女のさせる手を理解できず、チェス盤思考が通じない。相手の認識を間違えている。チェス盤思考の一番最初の前提が崩れてる。
おー、そう来るかよ。
そなたは魔女とのチェスに勝てぬ。
Beatrice has had a few issues though too, not predicting things. Like she didn't think Shannon would be acting the way she already has.
その後のことはわかりません。私たち使用人は食堂に近づくなと厳命されましたもので。
なるほどね。それで、シャノンはその、ベアトリーチェという人物に以前会ったことはある？
わかりません。
That was a slightly odd way to say it. It didn't quite sound as though she was saying her memory was hazy.
私たち使用人にとって、ベアトリーチェ様は、お屋敷のもう一人の主です。親方様に感化されて、そうだと吹聴している。私がここへ勤め始めた時から、ベアトリーチェ様の話は、すでに囁かれておりました。
前に聞いたよ。敬わないと呪われたりして、実際に事故に遭った使用人もいるんでしょ？
ええ。ただ、信じる信じないに個人差があったのは確かです。私はそういうものには敬いを忘れないのが信条ですので、黄金の魔女という。
Yeah, she doesn't want to say that. Oh yeah, I met her and I made a deal with her. So me and you could date.
それで、実際にその不確かな存在の魔女が姿を現して堂々と玄関からやってきたということなのかな？
わかりません。私には何も。
シャノンは夕食を運んだ時に何か話はした？
いいえ、何も。
そっか。しかし、ご飯を食べる魔女というんじゃ、なんだかリアリティがないね。やっぱり、この島の魔女伝説を知る何者かが、ベアトリーチェの名を語っているだけなんだろうね。シャノンちゃんは、ベアトリーチェを多分、お屋敷の守り神みたいに思って敬ってきた気持ちがあると思うんだよ。だから、それを名乗る人物が現れたので、少し動揺しちゃったんじゃないかな。
そうですね。きっとそうなんじゃないかと思います。
George was slightly at a loss about what to do with Shannon's downcast appearance. Maybe it's not just Genji, but even the young servants had been ruthlessly questioned as to whether they knew anything about this Beatrice person. Thinking that, he tried to cheer her up somehow. Surely, just like Maria and Jessica, Shannon was unable to fully hide the agitation caused by the sudden visit of this person calling herself the Golden Witch. He'd been so sure that this was the case, but George probably had no way of looking into Shannon's heart. Shannon was bitter and sad. The door to the Golden Land would be open. The witch had definitely told her that. That meant the demise of everything. Even if she accepted the ring from George, they would never be married now. No, in the first place, did furniture like her even have the right to be married? Even if the witch hadn't come to signal their demise, wasn't their relationship fated to fail sooner or later? Had she turned her gaze to focus solely on the fun day spent with George while purposely closing her eyes to the sad reality?
どうしたんだい？さっきから本当に元気がない。
ジョージさん、婚約って何でしょうか？
結婚の約束をするという意味だよ。でも、僕はその意味において、結婚と同じものだと考えてる。本当なら、僕は今すぐにでも、君をめとって家へ連れ帰りたい。でも僕は今、修行中の身で、まだまだ自らの城を築き上げる力量がない。だからこそ、一人前になって初めて、胸を張って君を連れ帰りたいんだ。それは遠い未来の話じゃない。 ほんの3年ほどを待ってほしいというだけの話なんだ。でも僕は、だからといって3年間、自分の気持ちを偽っていたくない。だから、婚約指輪を贈ろうと決めたんだ。それは、男として情けない理由かもしれない。妻と仕事を両立できないから待ってほしいなんて理由での婚約なんて情けないものかもしれない。でも僕は決して君を。
ありがとうございます。ジョージさんにとって婚約指輪が恋人に贈るプレゼントの一つではないということが分かりました。
当然だよ。婚約指輪はただのアクセサリーじゃない。尊い約束を指輪の形で残す恋人たちの宣誓なんだ。
だとすると、すぐにも結婚するなら不要なものということになりますよね。
その時は婚約指輪じゃない。結婚指輪として渡すよ。どちらにせよ、君に指輪を贈ることに変わりはないのさ。
この女は俺のものだから、誰も手を出すなよっていう売約札みたいなものですね。
Is she gonna try to get him to, like, oh man, this would be smart, because if she doesn't accept this ring during the typhoon and she's like, hey, just soon as use the ring as a wedding ring after the typhoon, they'll both be saved, right? Or she at least will be for sure.
いや、そんな意味じゃ。
George knew that he was weak by nature. When he'd been captivated by Shannon and had sworn to become an excellent man, he had also sworn to throw away that weak part of himself. So even if he had to be blunt about it, he chose to answer a little roughly. He was sure that by doing so would bolster and reassure Shannon.
いや、その通りかもしれない。さよ、君を僕の妻にする。他の誰にもやらない。僕だけのものにする。だから、誰も手を出すな。そういう指輪だよ。間違いない。
ありがとうございます。ジョージさん、本当に嬉しいです。
Don't take it! Then George-san, if it was decided by fate that this engagement ring, that this promise could never be fulfilled, would you still give it to me? Shannon tried to ask that, but she swallowed with her own words. Because George had already spoken the answer. George had said it. He had said that to him, an engagement ring was infinitely similar to a wedding ring. Therefore, accepting George's ring had a significance far more sacred than any promise to marry.
だから、僕はあえてこれを、今からこれは、婚約じゃない。結婚指輪だ。
いいのでしょうか。神様の祝福もなく、私たちが結ばれたことを、勝手に宣言してもいいのでしょうか。
神様も、父さんも母さんも、すべて事後報告で十分さ。僕たちが、二人は結ばれたと一方的に宣言する。それは、誰にも覆せない。
ジョージさん。
僕は、一時の感情で言ってるんじゃない。今だけの君を見て言ってるんじゃない。明日の君も、明後日の君も、それこそ未来の、老後の君すらも見据えて言っている。
いつも、ジョージさんが話していることですよね。元気な子供や孫たちに囲まれて、ゆっくりとした老後を過ごしたいって。
その時、僕の隣には、年老いた君がいる。それを僕は予言するよ。
Well, you're probably not going to foresee the real future.
必ずその日は訪れるから。
必ず訪れますか。信じてもいいですか。
必ず、絶対、それを言葉でない形で証明するのが
見せてください。
えこれさ。
George, thinking that he was being told to show her the ring, hurriedly took out the ring box. Even though he had practiced so much, he hadn't been able to do it cool. But Shannon wasn't looking at that. In her straight and direct gaze were vague tears and a smile. She focused her eyes on George's eyes. No, on something that she could see beyond his eyes.
私にその未来を見せてください。
Dang.
見せるよ。
This is really touching. I'm sad they're gonna die soon.
老後までじゃない。死んだ後も、僕らは魂になっても、ずっとずっと一緒にいる。
Shannon wiped away her tears and took the ring box. Inside was a diamond ring worthy of the blessing of the two of them. George said the line that he practiced over and over again inside his head.
その指輪を好きな指にはめて、それを返事にしてほしいんだ。つまり、明日の朝までに。
Shannon smiled, took the ring, and with a completely natural movement put it on the ring finger of her left hand. It really had looked like such a natural, ordinary movement, and for a while George was stunned.
これが私のお返事です、ジョージさん。
シャノン。いや、さよ。
魂になってもずっとずっと一緒です、ジョージさん。
You must really love someone to, like, you're told, okay, if you don't accept the engagement ring, you're gonna live. But if you do, you're gonna die. There was no blessing from God, no pastor to witness, nothing. But the two who were married proclaimed it. The two souls were joined here today. Hello?
姉さんはバカだ。
そうかな。
家具のくせに家具のくせに。
私家具じゃないよ、もう。
嘘だ。どうして自分を騙すんだよ。人間になんか絶対になれないって知ってるくせに。黄金鏡へ行かなきゃ人間になれないって知ってるくせに。なのに、どうして黄金鏡へ生きる約束を自分で保護に。
そっか。指輪を受け取ったら、ベアトリーチェ様との約束がなかったことになっちゃうんだったね。ごめんね。
あとは、僕も姉さんも、ジョージ様も親方様もみんな条件は同じだ。13人が生贄にされる。5人しか黄金鏡に招かれない。
1, 2, 3, 4.
その一石を自分で蹴るなんて。
おかしいね。未練があるのはカノン君の方みたいだね。
未練があるのは姉さんの方じゃないか。婚約しちゃったんだろ。果たせない運命なのを知りながら。
ずっとずっと永遠に一緒だよって約束した。だからね、その瞬間に私たちの永遠は完成したの。たとえ私たちが生贄になってしまうとしても、だからいいの。未練があるのはむしろカノン君の方。私たちは家具なんでしょ。私たちはどういう結果になろうとも解放される。なら黄金鏡に行けるか行けないかなんて どうでもいいことじゃない。なのに、カノン君は黄金鏡へ行くことに固執してる。どうしても人間になりたいんでしょ？どうして？
人間になりたいからだよ。家具はもう嫌だ。
どうして？
僕も、恋がしたかったんだ。
Bro, you can... Tears were coming from Cannon's eyes, and he
お
howled.
嬢様のことが。そしてあの日のお嬢様の姿を見て、もっとそしてお嬢様も、僕のことが好きだと分かって、でも僕は核で、
Oops, sorry, guys.
お嬢様の気持ちを受け止めることはできなくて。
それが勘違いだった。私たちは家具かもしれない。人間以下かもしれない。でも、恋をする資格がないわけじゃなかった。
添い遂げられぬ思いなら、ない方がマシだって思った。
Oh,
いつか自分も消え去る日が来て、それがきっとお嬢様を傷つけるなんて勝手に決めつけて、僕が怯えていただけなんだ。僕は、永遠になれない恋なら、しない方がマシだって、怯えてただけなんだ。
セミは、生涯のうち、数週間にも満たない、わずかな期間で恋をして、消えていくんだって。数週間で終わる恋だからと、恋をしないセミはいないんじゃないかな。
That is a great way to put it. It seemed that Cannon was still muttering his regrets, but by now, it was all jumbled up with his sobs.
あの魔女が憎い。僕に、どうしてこんな気持ちを植え付けて。あいつさえ、妙ないたずらをしなければ。僕は。
ベアトリーチェ様はひどいね。
I don't think she put the feelings in him.
そうやって悔し泣きをさせるために、運命をいたずらした。でも、魔女の思惑は多分、外れてだって。
Oops, Jesus Christ. Knowing love isn't a regret that ties you to life. It is the destination we're supposed to reach in our journey through life. It's probably going to be an important line.
というわけだ、カノン。せっかくの約束はこれで遂行だな。
I hope her shoes were clean.
さてさて、これにてすべての駒の条件は同じよ。駒は18、13人が生贄に捧げられる。生き残る5人は誰か。
Who? Okay.
それとも誰かがこの儀式を打ち壊してみせるか。誰がどうやって
Word.
これはチェスプロブレムではない。対等なゲームだ。わらわだけが一方的に詰めるわけではない。そなたはわらわの詰めから懸命に逃れ続け、引き分け無効試合に持ち込むことができる。まあせいぜいそなたにできるのは、それを延々と繰り返すのが関の山よ。そしておそらくそれはそなたにとってそう難しいことではあるまい。しかしそなたは永遠に続く無効試合にやがて精神をすり減らし、やがては精神を、その時にこそ敗北を受け入れ、わらわに屈服することになるであろう。対等なゲームと言った理由、それはわらわにも敗北の条件を設けてあることだ。負けのないゲームほど退屈なものはないのでな。 わらわを任す方法。
You have to find the gold,
それ
right?
がわらわの肖像画に捧げられたあの碑文よ。
I want to know where the gold at.
あれこそは黄金鏡の扉の開き方にして同時に儀式を打ち破る鍵でもある。わらわは碑文に従い儀式を完遂する。そなたは碑文の謎を解き儀式を打ち破りわらわを滅ぼす。碑文に隠された謎を解きわらわが金蔵に値し莫大なる黄金のありかを暴いてみせよ。こたびのゲームはどういう結末を見せるのやら健闘を期待するぞ。わらわを楽しませてみせろよ、後ろ宮バトラー。
What?
異論はない。私と夏日は認める。
信じられないし、信じたくないけれど、それが、現実なのね。
夏日、言葉を少し選びなさい。
What?
彼女は当家の最高の賓客なのだ。
わしらも認める。
Why are they in a church?
黒の根も出えへん。
へえ、認めるわ。一遍の文句もない。まさか本当に素直にあなたに尊敬の念を覚えるわ。
私もよ。すごいわ。純粋に尊敬する。だから認めざるを得ないわ。
俺も認めるぜ。未だに信じられねえ。だがどうしようね。悪魔を証明しちまった。あんたの勝ちだ。
悪魔の証明はそなたが好む証明不能への便利な言い訳だったが、あだに
いじめるなよ魔女様。俺はもうあんたを認めてるぜ。降参だ。
キリエ、まだ異論があるか。わらわは全員一致しか好まぬ。お前一人がわらわの存在を認めぬならば。
The witch laughed boldly, and the siblings started getting frantic. They were afraid of displeasing the witch. Kyrie lightly closed her eyes after keeping silent for a while and opened her mouth.
ごめんなさい、降参よ。
Only Kyrie faced the witch with stern eyes until the end. However, this had only resulted in her refusing to accept the truth for a short time. The truth, the being, that before her eyes couldn't be denied. Devils had already been proven.
私も認めるわ。
What's...
あなたはベアトリーチェ。
I'm getting
後ろ
so
宮家
frustrated.
の顧問錬金術師。そして偉大なる魔法の使い手。魔女であることを認めざるを得ない。
What the hell? Now they're just blue balling me right here. So what is it, midnight with the bells ringing? They're just... Oh, I want to know what happened. The hell? How are you just gonna skip over all that? Ah. Ah. What is that sound that always fills my ears? Is it the sound of the rain, or the sound of a waterfall, or could it be radio static? If not, I want it to be the sound of blood flowing through my body. I want it to be the sound of blood circulating through me, telling me that I'm still alive.
Asa nanoka.
The light entering through the crack in the curtain was faint, but it at least told him that dawn had broken. Kinzo, still in the position he'd been in when he woken up, still in a chair, looking up at the ceiling, felt the blood slowly travel through his body. Judging by the clock, it was early morning, 6 a.m. on the dot. No matter how tired he was, no matter how deeply he slept, he always woke up at exactly this time, as though he had measured it with an hourglass. He didn't think of it as something to boast about, but he told himself, as long as he could still manage this, his health couldn't be that bad.
朝を迎えたということは、どうやら最初の生贄は逃れたということらしい。ルーレットの目が幸運だったのか、我が努力の賜物なのか。
I mean, you do have, like,
区別のつかぬところが何とももどかしいが、それは言うまい。
Kinzo was struck by a faint desire to see beyond the study door. Yep, this is gonna be... After all, he might find the traces of someone's vain struggle to break through the door. A sign that someone had tried to select him as one of the first 6 sacrifices.
人間とは人事を尽くして天命を待ちながら幸運を得られた時にはそれが単なる幸運ではなく己の技量によるものだったとうぬぼれたくもなる。
That was why you wanted to check whether there was a wretched mark on the door. The very desire was human. And that was why Kinzo did not check. He often rejected desires that came to him because he was human. By doing that, he could be immersed in a feeling of sufficiency, even though he himself had become a being that surpassed humans. He recognized human desires for what they were, and guarded against them. Things that humans would want to do, he resisted. This eccentricity and rebellious nature has surely given him a rare genius, making it possible for him to succeed in his exploits as he revived the Ushiromiya family in a single generation.
さて、ベアトリーチ。
Oh man, I hope
お
he
前
starts.
が取った6つの駒は何なのか。そして次なる手はどう来るのか。楽しませてもらうぞ。 私の守りは完璧だ。前回のような無様はさらさぬぞ。
Well, he didn't cry out to her, so that's a bit disappointing. I love when he does that. The servants woke early. They had to open the curtains, prepare breakfast, and complete various other tasks to welcome guests to a new day. Goto was the most enthusiastic. During the family conference, he had been told to concentrate his efforts, especially on cooking, and he'd been especially exempted from several tasks that servants must normally do. Goto, who was a show-off, seemed to be feeling particularly superior because of that. He let Genji and the rest prepare the rest of the mansion and worked on making breakfast in the kitchen. Okay, so he died last. Genji split the work with Shannon and Cannon as they carried out various tasks. Shannon headed to the dining hall and knocked. Last year, the family conference had continued into the earlier hours of the morning. It wouldn't have been odd if this year's conference had done the same. Considering the possibility that they still having a discussion inside, she knocked. But there was no response, so she opened the door and said good morning. Blood on the floor?
おはようございます。いらっしゃいませんか?
The room was cold and the conference seemed to have ended a long time before. There was a tea set on the table from which they had probably been drinking, arranged in a way that would make it easy to clean up. Cleaning up the tea was the servant's job. If the family members were extra generous and cleaned it up themselves, the servants would lose face. So it was truly a pleasant act of kindness for the family to do only this much. As she approached the table to clean it, she noticed something like a memo that had been left near the utensils and cups. Since it was right next to the tea set, Shannon picked it up, naturally thinking it was a memo for the servant doing the cleaning. Written there was not a request nor a thanks for preparing the tea. There was just a single word. Shannon looked at it blankly and read it aloud.
礼拝堂。
A small sound kept repeating over and over. Normally the sound would have been too trivial to be worth caring about. If only I could stop hearing it soon, I could go back to sleep right away, she said vaguely. But no matter how much time passed, the sound did not end. It repeated over and over. Ah, shut up. Who is it? Banging on the door this whole time. As soon as she realized that, she woke up. Someone was knocking. Then she noticed that it wasn't just a knock, but a voice as well.
ローザ様。ローザ様。おはようございます。
待って。今行きます。
It had been Genji's voice. Looking at the clock, it wasn't even 7 yet. It was clearly too early to wake the guests. Did something happen that was bad enough to cause this? She felt her sleepiness increase and fade, thanks to this premonition of misfortune. Though Genji was a servant, Rosa had known him since her childhood days, so even though she was slightly defenseless in her pajamas, she opened up the door a crack and answered. How?
おはようございます。
Did anyone die?
早朝から申し訳ございません。
何かあったの？
はい。実は、礼拝堂に。
Genji whispered something into Rosa's ear. For a second, it seemed Rosa could not understand what she had been told. After having it repeated several times, she realized that apparently something strange had happened. Rosa closed the door for a second, changed her clothes quickly, and followed Genji toward the mansion. I didn't even know there was a chapel until 15 minutes ago. The chapel requires some explanation. It wasn't in the mansion, but in a grove behind it, a short walk's distance away. And it had been built the same time as the mansion, so its walls had been repaired many times, making it look new from the outside, but it was a very old building. Rosa dashed through the rain along with Genji. Just like the previous night, the rain was falling in earnest. Eventually the chapel came into sight from beyond the thin grove. Just looking at it from the outside, it seemed like a place of dazzling beauty where a pair of young lovers might want to get married. However, Kinzo apparently viewed it as a very sacred place. So Rosa and her siblings had been given strict instructions not to approach it unnecessarily. Even though they were grown up now, approaching the chapel for any reason would still make them feel guilty. and also afraid if their father might get angry and hit them in the face. Okay, that was... The servant silhouettes could be seen in the front of the chapel's entrance. Goda, Shannon, Cannon, which meant all the servants in the morning shift had gathered. A short while ago, Genji had spoken to Rosa, telling her what the situation was. However, without laying eyes on it directly, she definitely hadn't been able to understand. It was probably the same for all the servants gathered here as well. Without seeing it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have been able to understand what was going on. I thought Rosa was there in the chapel. Oh, okay. Well, that's not good. At the door of the entrance to the chapel was something very large, written with a creepy, stringy paint that made one think of blood. Something like a creepy magic circle.
何よこれいつ書かれたの
The servants looked at each other. Goda was the first to open his mouth.
申し訳ございません。普段はここへは立ち入りませんもので、いつ書かれたのかはわかりません。
じゃあ最初に見つけたのは誰？
はい、私です。食堂へお茶の道具の片付けに行きましたら、礼拝堂と書かれたメモがあったもので。
Shannon held out a memo with her shaking hand.
誰の字？兄さんや姉さんの字ではないわね。それであなたはここへ来てこれを見つけたのね。
はい。
ローザ様、これを。
何？
So who could be dead? I guess all the kids could be.
Happy Halloween. For
What? Cannon pointed out a single line of English written below the creepy magic circle. Until it had been pointed out to her, she thought it was just another part of the magic circle. The following words written in English. Happy Halloween for Maria. Happy Halloween for Maria? This creepy magic circle was for Maria? Happy Halloween? Yesterday, the only person that said Happy Halloween to Maria, the key phrase match. It was the Golden Witch Beatrice.
マリアは？あの子、いとこたちと一緒に寝てるはずよね。
Oh no.
確認した？
申し訳ございません。マリア様のお名前が書かれていたことには今気づきましたもので、まだ確認しておりません。至急。
何やってんのよ。私はマリアの様子を見てきます。それからクラウス兄さんたちにも知らせて、以後の対応の指示を受けて。
After saying that much, Rosa finally noticed that something was odd. Her own rank in the family conference was the lowest of the four siblings. Why had she been the only one called during an abnormal situation like this when the four other siblings hadn't been? So, Natsui, Kraus, Hideyoshi, Ava, and then Atler's dad and Kirie, Rudolph. That's 6. Even if Maria's name had popped up.
まさか。
はい、旦那様にご連絡申し上げようとしたのですが、お姿が見当たらず。
奥様もお部屋におられません。シーツの様子からすると、昨夜はベッドに戻られていないのかもしれません。
Rosa felt something creepily crawling slowly up her back.
礼拝堂の中は？
いえ、まだです。確認しようとはしたのですが。
実は礼拝堂の鍵は特別で、マスターキーに対応しておりません。1本だけある鍵でしか開けられないのですが、その鍵がキーボックスから紛失しているのです。
She didn't want to get closer to the door with the creepy magic circle if she could. Rosa readied herself and approached as she tried to push and pulling the knob. As she felt the resistance of the sturdy lock,
入れる窓などがないか探してはみたのですが、もし中を確認するのでしたら窓を破らなければならないかと思います。いかがいたしましょう。
そんな許可私に出せるわけがないわ。お父様の大切な礼拝堂なのよ。そんなこと。
At that time, the events of the previous day swirled around the back of Rosa's mind. That's right. When I met that witch in the rose garden, didn't she hand Maria an envelope? Yeah, there's no mistake. She did hand it over. When Maria tried to open it, the witch told her not to do it yet, and then she surely said, "The time to open it will come soon." Rosa was sure. There could be no mistake. The envelope Maria received was... She thinks the key's in there? After dashing back to the guest house, Rosa approached the cousin's room while hiding her footsteps, softly opened the door and peered inside. From the inside, she could hear healthy snores, typical of young people. There were 4 children, and Maria was there, sleeping soundly. After breathing a sigh of relief, she entered the room with quiet footsteps. She was after Maria's handbag, which was resting on the sofa. Maria always liked carrying her treasures around with her. She was probably emulating how her mother always carried her makeup with her. Of course, she was just imitating her mother, so everything on the inside was junk. In Maria's case, it was full of small, creepy, occult items, notebooks describing things of that nature, and so on. Rosa had never been happy to see her daughter walking around with things like that, which weren't girlish at all. However, trying to force Maria to stop had resulted in a big fight, and she decided to let it be. A Western envelope with the crest of the gold eagle. When she took it out of the bag, she realized there was a heavy, vague cylindrical object inside. She could tell by its feel and weight. There was no doubt. This was a key. After turning it around and checking that Maria was still asleep, Rosa tore open the envelope and the contents spilled open into her palm. It was a key with an old and intricate design. Rosa gripped the key and dashed out. Battler seemed to have noticed the sound, but after grumbling and turning over in his sleep, he started snoring again.
Genji-san, この鍵、ひょっとして礼拝堂の鍵ということは？
これをどこで？はい。これが礼拝堂の鍵です。
Rosa approached the creepy magic circle once again and put the key in the keyhole. There was a strong resistance. After it resisted for a short while, it stopped resisting with a clunk. Then, squeaking with a noise that hurt one's ears, it slowly began to open.
誰かいるの？
Her voice reverberated through a massive room. Of course, there was no answer. The chapel had a high ceiling and the air was cold, and even on this rainy, unsettling day, it felt sacred for some reason. The servants timidly followed after Rosa.
Rosa-sama, あれを.
Cannon noticed immediately and pointed. Over there was the altar. In the place where normally should have a pastor been preaching of God's love, there was a table that shouldn't have been there. At first, it looked like a dining table. There was actually gorgeous plates and utensils placed there, making it look like a child's birthday party or something. Upon closer inspection, the surrounding area had been decorated with pumpkins and black and orange ribbons. They were probably Halloween decorations. And there were people seated at the table. 3 people on each side facing each other seated in chairs. They could be recognized at a glance. Kraus and his wife, Ava and her husband, Rudolph and his wife, but if you wanted to be sure, you'd still have to go even closer to check. Because they seemed almost like dolls. Rosa and the rest opened the door and entered, once with the sound of many footsteps had called out, asking if anyone was there, and yet there had been no reaction. Even if Rosa and the rest assumed that they were being ignored, you'd still expect some kind of reaction. And there hadn't been that. At first, it felt like someone had set down dolls that greatly resembled those people. By now, it wasn't just Rosa, Shannon Cannon, and even Goda. They were all fighting frantically with creepy emotion grasped at their hearts. Alright, I'm going to stop here for today. Leave you guys on a cliffhanger. Yeah, this, they're doing like a really good job in this episode, just building it up. Like, I want to know what the hell happened. I'm curious what Beatrice did to make everyone in that group cower to her. But, I mean, it could be anything. But, yeah, I was like, okay, I want to see why they resign, and we didn't get to see that. And the fact that Hideyoshi and Ava were killed and like every couple was killed is not a great sign for Shannon coming up next. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought about the episode.